this week we read Hecuba.
Yep.
I literally just read this yesterday, and
Okay.
I forgot the name.
You can take out. You can take out the book.
Bacchantes?
The Bacchantes.
Bacchantes,
Yeah.
that's it.
What's no? I want to say how.
Hecuba.
Hecuba. I already said Hecuba though.
Yeah.
You said Hecuba, Bacchantes.
Okay.
Third one.
Oh, it was the first one.
Electra.
Alive.
No wonder I forgot about it.
That's
Oh
right.
my God, Paul. Okay. All right, so we'll start off with Hecuba. What did you guys think of Hecuba?
I'm trying to think. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It has an interesting plot.
Okay.
Like a lot of it is just Hecuba complaining and then her doing something at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very similar to Trojan Woman, except it goes
Yes.
a little more in depth to what's actually going on, specifically with Polyxenia, a bit more into her unfortunate demise.
She finds out she must be sacrificed.
Yep.
Correct. To Achilles.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And obviously Hecuba is really pissed at this.
And like Hecuba, and like you see like Hecuba and Polyxena like beg Agamemnon like, please let's not have this happen,
Mm-hmm.
and straight up denied.
Yeah.
What was it? Not Odysseus?
And Odysseus
And
Odysseus is recommending the most Machiavellian shit
Mm-hmm.
in the story.
It's
It's almost like Euripides fucking hates Odysseus.
I swear, like every
Yeah.
time he's on the pages with
He's pulling off a
Euripides.
Tywin Lannister every single time.
Every time he has you're supposed to hate him by this point with Euripides. He doesn't like him. It must be personal.
No, he's supposed to be complex like Tywin Lannister, and that Tywin Lannister would abuse his kids. He was a ruthless man, but he liked Arya. He had those scenes where he was really cool with Arya. So, yeah, it was like the same thing. Any sort of feminist undertones, women being used as obviously property. In this case, we're gonna use women as, sacrifices for the men that die in battle to help them get to the afterlife better.
I do find it interesting how the guys were actually overtaken by the women in this play, even though it was by surprise. Like it was, if they still the woman still straight up killed the guy's sons and blinded him,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and they got away with it too. Like Hecuba didn't get any punishment for that.
I think he did, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the only punishment she technically got was by proxy with him saying Cassandra is gonna be murdered by the hands of Clytemnestra, and then what was his name? Polyphemus?
Polyxena?
There was Polyxena, and there was the guy who was blinded. And that was
I would like to know. It's not Polydorus. No, it's
Polymester?
Polymester.
Polymester,
Yeah.
yes. And he also said Agamemnon was gonna get murdered as well, which was interesting. Getting revenge.
Hecuba wanting revenge
Mm-hmm.
for her son's death, and she's begging Agamemnon to help her, right?
Yeah.
And Agamemnon being like, hold on. Agamemnon agreed, did he not?
What?
On the revenge that Hecuba proposed to
Well,
him?
no, he was initially going to punish her. Well, he was initially neutral towards it. Then Polymester had his argument towards, hey, why you should punish Hecuba. Then Hecuba called him out saying, hey, don't act like you killed my son because you gave a shit about the Achaeans. You wanted it because you wanted our money.
Yeah.
You didn't don't act this
was a morally
don't act if you wanted to do it, you should have you could have bartered with us earlier in this case. So she called him out, and then Agamemnon yeah, this guy is full of shit. So he's yeah, fuck you, you're not I'm not gonna do shit.
Yeah. They still sacrifice Polyxena nonetheless. And Hecuba does get her revenge
Revenge, yeah.
on Polymestor. So kind of like she lost some, but she gained some in a way. But I think also Euripides might be trying to say that that revenge is like it's an empty way to live your life, perhaps. So that doesn't offer any tangible benefits. Would we say that or no?
I think like I did think of one thing, and because like when we see like through all the plays,
But also no.
there's always like a theme of hospitality towards them. When we see like that, I think it was Alcestis, where the one with Hercules, where like the only reason Hercules helped out Alcestis is because he was very hospitable towards Hercules, even in a horrible time. And like every scene like with the Iliad and the Odyssey, there's always that thing of hospitality. And in this case, we saw how Polymestor like was supposed to take care of Polydorus, and he straight up killed him. And like that, and I feel like maybe like back then that would have been seen like, hey, you're violating you're violating the hospitality rules.
Yeah.
And like we've seen like many times that even though Zeus is the god of lightning, blah blah blah, it's also the god of suppliants, I think they're called, or basically the god of hospitality. And you kind of see how like if you break like hospitality rules, you're not gonna have like that great of an ending. Like it's almost like also showing like, hey, even though you should like probably respect other people in your household, you know?
Yeah.
You invited him, you said you take care of him.
It's like a sacred rule.
It's like you invited him, you said you'd take care of him, and you didn't. Like I think like we could even bring this up in more modern terms, like I guess like the closest thing would be like a step parent, you know? Like a step parent or like an adoptive parent, where if like you agreed to take care of a child, and if you're doing a bad job at it or just completely ignore that or whatever, it's like a morally bankrupt thing to do, and you're just not gonna get that great of an ending.
Yeah. But also what surprised me is like Euripides is pretty much saying that you should murder your murderer's kids. And that's the right state, and that's the right thing to do. Because at the end of the play, they come to the conclusion that that was the just thing for Hecuba to do. Right?
I think like I would say that's the only thing she could do, because there is no like legal system. Like there's no court, there's no judge. Like,
but they were telling arguments in front of Agamemnon.
Well, like yeah, there were arguments. Like she had like the action. She did the action, and like yeah, technically she got judged for it. But like Polymestor didn't get judged for his action at any point. By like there was no trial. There wasn't like, hey, this is just or not.
Yeah.
So like logically speaking, there was only one thing Hecuba could do. Like
she could still try to kill Polymestor himself. Like, why go after his kids? You know what I mean?
Well, I guess that's a bit, it's a bit payback, right? They killed
but they're innocent.
her kids, so then she gets revenge by killing his kids.
But aren't those kids innocent?
They are innocent, but I'm pretty sure her goal wasn't just to have justice. I think it was just more to inflict pain on him than anything. Because look, she's also losing her children, so like
Lost a son.
Yeah, and like
about to lose a daughter at this point.
And Polydorus was like her the last child that possibly could have been alive, and he killed him. So like by this point she's like, fuck it, I just don't care anymore. I'll just inflict as much pain as I physically can on you. So like rather than just killing you, I'll kill your son, I'll take your eyesight, and I'll just let you live in misery.
Yeah. What do you think, Dylan? Do you think it was like just to kill her kids, the kids?
Kill her kids. It definitely wasn't just, but I think in her case, as Paul alluded to, she couldn't really do anything, right? Not only at this point was she a slave, since the Trojans lost, she's also a woman. So back then they had no right, they had no rule, they couldn't do anything at that point. So I do find it interesting that, as you said, they went after the children, maybe a bit of sending a message, right? You kill my kids, I kill yours. Simple payback. Obviously not just, but at that point, there's not much she could do.
And then for Agamemnon to side with Hecuba, to side with the slave that he conquered, that's also a little weird, because you would think to an extent he would have sided with Polymestor, but he doesn't, right? Yeah, he doesn't. So it's just a wondering, like, why is he suddenly just all of a sudden? You know what I mean?
I wouldn't say he's just in the case that he recognized Hecuba's argument as valid, you know? Like, she didn't necessarily talk about justice, what the right thing to do is. She said this guy was full of shit. He wasn't doing anything for you. He was waiting on the sidelines, see who would win, and then he'd take their side after everything's done. So and by that point, because we all know Agamemnon, even though he's sometimes very greedy, he's a competent leader. He would understand that when someone's on his side or not. So if someone pointed it out, I'd be like, okay, yeah, you could see why he could make that decision. As we all know, Agamemnon doesn't particularly care about justice and all the things we read or seen about him.
Yeah. Alright. And then the foretelling at the end that Hecuba's gonna drown and Agamemnon's gonna get murdered by Clytemnestra.
Yeah. And Cassandra, obviously,
Yeah.
when he was talking about the daughter.
So just a nice continuation, not really a lot to add, right?
By this point, let's talk about the second Electra play.
Bacchantes.
No, let's talk about Electra, because I want to get that over with.
Oh, okay. Alright.
I hated this play so much.
It was boring when I first read it. I mean,
my biggest problem is we've read this play 2 times already.
it's just now from Euripides' perspective or his interpretation.
His interpretation, from Electra's point of view.
2 times is already a bit much. The 3rd time, why? Why?
I guess because it's such a popular story. I mean, the differences.
The way it varies.
Electra was married this time.
Yeah.
Yep.
They also made Electra and Orestes less intelligent in this version as well. Because it was the old man who actually came up with the plan rather than Orestes and Electra themselves.
Yes. And they did tell him what to do. I think and unlike the other ones, Electra actually participated this time, right?
Yeah. It's funny because in the beginning she was very sad, I've lost my status. Oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And then near the end, she's encouraging Orestes, who's having second thoughts, to kill the mother. She's saying, "Do it. It doesn't matter."
Whereas in the other version, I don't think she did that. She wasn't even close, right?
Exactly. She wasn't involved.
And the original version with was it Sophocles?
Yeah.
With Sophocles, it was really him and Orestes and Clytemnestra alone.
Yeah.
Right? And Clytemnestra's almost about to convince him but fails. That actually reminds me a little bit when Tywin almost convinced Tyrion not to.
Not everything's Game of Thrones.
Because I think Martin is a huge admirer of the classics and he borrowed from the Greeks. That's why it seems like it rhymes a bit. But yeah, I mean,
because a lot of the previous 2 plays we've seen, there's more Orestes involvement in them, and here he seems like a
doofus, like a George W. Bush.
It's more like he's a plot device than anything. He's not as developed in this version as the other versions we've seen.
Yeah.
He doesn't have as much agency. He kind of just does what the old man tells him to do. He's okay,
let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah, he questions the murdering Clytemnestra a lot more in this one.
He's a lot more apprehensive, and Electra goads him more than previously. So Euripides might be portraying Electra a little bit more antagonistic.
Yeah, I agree.
Would you say?
Why
would he do that? Also,
I don't know, but I also want to bring up Clytemnestra doesn't the way she justifies herself much better than the other ones. Because in this one we get the huge exposition near the end.
Oh, that was a nice exposition.
It was a really nice one, and she basically discusses.
He was comparing like the actions of what Agamemnon did,
Yes.
and tried to have like an equivalent. Is be like when she said, "Hey, like his actions made as much sense as me killing Orestes just to save Menelaus." You know, like it doesn't really track.
Yeah, and what I was trying to get to, I forgot. She was discussing. Oh, he didn't sacrifice. She was saying, if he sacrificed her for the good of our country, that's one thing. He sacrificed her, our daughter,
So he for his own
personal gain to save another woman in Helen, right? Because all this was for Helen.
For Helen.
Exactly. So she's very
a
good.
lot of deep thinking, like you can tell in certain
Like this one at least did do a better job.
But why the fuck would he portray Electra more negatively and Clytemnestra more positively? That's what I want. That's what I really want to know.
Like, I guess we have to depend on this version because like it's still not a good thing to kill your parents even if you did something really bad. Like the end of the Oresteia like has a trial for a reason, even if it was like very like even though like you can kind of understand it, he still kind of has to go to trial for it.
Yeah.
And like maybe like Euripides is like doing the flip side of like, hey, let's like actually interrogate if Orestes actually did something right with.
But at the end, right, Clytemnestra's brothers show up, right? And they pretty much tell both Electra and Orestes that what they did was great. It was like a great source of revenge, but at the same time it was shameful, right? Like you see that sort of duality. And it's like, if it's fucking justified, how could it also at the same time be a shameful act? You know what I'm saying? Like, and then tells them what to do in order to like cleanse their souls, right? In order to redeem themselves, which is
Like maybe,
but at the same time, like, why can't Clytemnestra sort of redeem herself after murdering Agamemnon?
like I guess like maybe Euripides could be making the message that like maybe sometimes to do the right thing you have to do shitty things to do it, to accomplish it.
It could also be like so patriarchal messages, because if Agamemnon dies, Clytemnestra can't redeem herself, right? Because if she would have, they would have found they would have written the story to redeem herself. But instead, she has to get murdered by Orestes, right? And of course, when they murder the mom, they can get away with it easier. Kind of like at the end of the Oresteia, when Athena deems that the murder isn't as bad because it's a mom, and according to their fucked up genetics, he's not related to his mom.
Like the mom is barely part of
the mom's not part of the family, or not part of like his conception. Athena was conceived by Zeus alone. Therefore, you could technically only need a man to conceive. So fuck Clytemnestra. Yeah.
Like is this like it's always been the case that like I feel
and also he makes a female Electra goad him. He doesn't make Orestes the antagonist out the bat. He makes him to an innocent person that gets driven into darkness by his sister.
By a woman.
You can't necessarily say he's driven into darkness if at the very end you have a literal God saying, by the way, your actions were right, but like you still gotta get punished for it. Like that's kind of what happens at the end.
Yeah.
Like,
it's just hard to say at this point.
Well, I guess it's also very much just like a moral question. If you rob someone who robbed someone else, does that make you a good person or not?
And also, if it's what are the rules if it's your family as well? If it's a family member of yours.
Well, if you commit an act against a family member?
Or because they go into that at the end, right? Like, she murdered your dad, so it was right, but she's also your mom. So if Clytemnestra wasn't his mom, it would have just been a correct action. But because she's her kin, it creates a level of sinfulness and difficulty to it.
Yeah.
That they need to redeem themselves afterwards.
Well, I'm assuming in that case, it's right that he killed Clytemnestra because Clytemnestra killed her husband, which is seen as, was it distasteful?
Yeah.
Distasteful? but it's also shameful because it's the son that's killing the mother. But if it was someone else who killed Clytemnestra, that would have been just seen as you did the right thing.
Yeah.
Well,
What do you have to say, Paul?
I just think like you have like all these great playwrights having to like deal with the fact that they're forced to write like a really bad act and like try to justify it. And like when we see with like all of these different authors, they have like a different justification, different reasons as to why Clytemnestra
Did what she did.
did what she did. Like while like the root reason is the same, that Agamemnon killed their daughter.
Mm-hmm.
You also see like the rationale as to why she killed Agamemnon is always different, even though the root's the same.
Yeah, I did find that. In the first two stories that we read with Clytemnestra, she did seem more harsh. She seemed like a more
Villain.
a villain, yeah, a worse person. But in this one, it's funny because Euripides, he's making us question what we know of the story. Because we saw, oh, Clytemnestra's a villain. She murdered the husband. But then we're starting to see nicer side of her, like, oh, I did this because what he did was terrible. And she justifies it much better in this one than the other ones. So then we start to say, wait, is Clytemnestra the bad guy? Is she good? Is she the villain? We don't know. So it's interesting.
And then it makes you question the gods, maybe, when they give that decision that it was right to murder her, to kill her. Yeah. Okay. We ready to move on?
Yes, but
I think so.
I might think of something later.
Okay. We'll do that at the end when we summarize it.
Yeah.
Bacchantes. One of my, a unique story, finally.
It's
Very
actually
interesting.
like this is like completely different than literally all the other stories that we've read. Maybe aside from the Persians, I guess.
Cannibalistic women. Yeah. Just destructive, like fucking feral women.
Yeah. Because it was Dionysus, because he was the main focus, I always assumed like the women were drunk in this case, right? Because he's the god of wine. So I always assumed they were drunk, but yeah, that's
It was
night
beyond-
of debauchery, shall we say.
It was beyond drunk. They were like having like
They were having like a cannibalistic orgy.
They
almost.
were like there has to have been drugs there, or like Dionysus must have been giving drugs, you know,
Ecstasy.
like
Here's some X.
Yeah.
I mean, did you guys think there was like a whole moral theme to it, or any sort of themes at all?
I think there is the denial of God, like because think about it. The whole reason all of this is happening is because the character is denying Dionysus as the god, as one of their gods, and it makes sense. It's like Dionysus is like a relatively new god by that point in time, but he's like still a god, and all in like the kingdom, and it's particularly the king, like denies his godhood, and he gets majorly punished for that. And you could actually like kind of see this in like many modern religions as well.
But punish him to such an extent like this.
Well, like think of
it seems really brutal.
well, like true. However, I'm pretty sure most of our modern religions actually have a story like that. Like I'm pretty sure if you go into the Bible, there's gonna be one story like that. Like especially the Old Testament.
Or like somebody denies God and God punishes him in like an extraordinary way. Yeah. But still, maybe also Euripides is trying to make us question whether that's justified. If you don't believe in a god, if you really have to resort to that sort of thing, you know what I mean? Or no? Do you just think he's just pro Dionysius? Oh, excuse me.
Like here's the thing, I maybe would have agreed with you if what's the name? What's like the king's name again? Is it Cadmus? I think it was Cadmus.
Cadmus.
Here's the thing, I maybe would have agreed with you if Cadmus wasn't a fucking dick, you know. But he sucks in this play.
Oh, funny enough, I did see this somewhere. Jesus, when he gets interrogated by Pontius Pilate, they did compare it to Dionysius getting interrogated by King Pentheus in the story in regards to how divine he is. Funny enough.
Like, Yeah,
So
like,
I see the denial of the gods,
Well,
the arrogance of man, maybe.
yeah, because like Cadmus is a major dick in this story. Like, does he have a redeeming quality at all in this story? Like, I know they're not long, but like they.
I know the women don't.
Like again, I know like the plays are relatively short, but even like in many of the other plays with bad guys, even Clytemnestra, they still like some kind of redeeming qualities or like understanding. But Cadmus is an ass. Like,
Again, giving Pontius Pilate vibes, maybe.
okay, I don't know that story that well of Pontius.
Okay.
So like I can't really make a good comparison. Well, like again, like the main theme would be denial of the gods. Like do you all agree with that?
Can you repeat that?
The denial of the gods. Like, do you
Yeah.
all?
Yeah. Denial of his
Yeah.
divinity.
Because like
It's weird also that he gets Pentheus addicted to, like, gives him the same power, right? And makes him feel like he can fucking just rip the world apart with his bare hands. He also does like a Kratos on him, right? Like he makes Pentheus do some awful deeds and then he takes him out of the trance, maybe? Or is that the women?
That was the woman.
That's the women.
The women,
Yeah.
like they see him like
And then they see the fucking all the bodies they destroyed and they're like, oh my god.
literally like Cadmus's son literally gets ripped limb from limb, and the mother is holding the head.
Yeah.
I believe what was he? He dressed as a woman to infiltrate the base. He climbed onto a tree with the help of Dionysius. Tells the woman, "Look, he's up there." They chase him down and then rip his out,
Rip
they
him
rip him limb from limb.
yeah.
And then the mother's holding his head,
Yeah.
and then she realizes, "Oh my god, what did I just do?" It's such a weird story.
Well,
It's a
like,
very weird story.
I guess this is like a classic hubris, like hubris, like tragic trait, you know, like all of the Greek heroes have like one big flaw.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are hubris. Achilles, hubris.
Agamemnon.
Ajax, hubris. Agamemnon, hubris.
Menelaus, hubris.
Hey, he's not a tragic figure. He gets a happy ending.
Odysseus. What would be Odysseus's tragedy? Just saying his name when he shouldn't.
Yeah.
like to the Cyclops.
And you could also say arrogance, also hubris.
Yeah.
Hector.
Hubris.
Oh, bro, you fucking monster, bro. He's Zeus's pawn, right? And he thinks it's so depressing. Again, the whole point of the Iliad is like how fucking tiny humans are, right? Because in Hector's head, he's like the shit, and Zeus got his back, but Zeus is like 10 chess moves ahead. He's like, I'm just bringing you up to kill fucking what's his face?
Achilles.
No, his friend.
Patroclus.
Patroclus to goad fucking Achilles into killing you and giving this guy his glory.
Like, to be fair, not only Zeus 10 steps ahead, he made the game, and he knows, and he made it that there's only one possible.
I forgot the book number, but he fucking tells us everything that's gonna happen.
I swear, it must be like book 10 or something.
It's very early in the story where like Zeus finally like reveals everything in his master fucking plan. It's whatever. Yeah. Anything about Bacchantes that you guys wanted to go further into? Maybe about the behavior of King Pentheus or Dionysius himself?
Wait, it's Pentheus or Cadmus?
It's Pentheus.
No, because
You can look back.
I swear, Cadmus, Pentheus. I don't remember. He wasn't. He's the one who got ripped limb from limb, right?
Yeah, it was Pentheus.
Then Cadmus was the king.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, yeah, Cadmus.
Yes, I do remember it was the king that lived, and his son was
Destroyed, yeah.
eaten, murdered, ripped, destroyed. Really?
So yeah, that's how God comes into being, kind of like how Lionel Messi started his international career.
Yep,
Well, that's how
exactly.
Dionysius-
Yep, the exact same one.
Well, by this point, I guess we should at least examine the trait of hubris more, since I'm not sure how many of these hubris.
So clearly hubris is a huge part of this, right? We did it when we were discussing Sophocles after reading all of Sophocles. Like Oedipus Rex, his whole like being trapped. And the whole point of Oedipus Rex is you know what's gonna happen. You see his downfall from 20 miles away, but he doesn't know it. And that's what makes it tragic. And that's what you could say makes humans tragic, is that if you are living your life, you don't see your fall as much as somebody that's not living your life and gets like a third person view of your life. Does that make sense? So, yeah. Sorry, you were saying, Paul?
Like because like we should also like look at hubris in terms of like religious manner.
Yeah.
Since like that's clearly the case in literally every story involving hubris in all the ones we've read so far. Where like you have a character who has like a very high opinion of themselves, overly high, to the point where they ignore the gods, they ignore like their power, and they view them like as the master of their own fates. Doesn't matter if you believe it or not, but that's what the Greeks back then viewed as a flaw. Since
again, this is before Socrates, Aristotle, and Plato, so we weren't really philosophically talking about free will and all this stuff. They really tied their fate, they really tied their destinies, the Greeks, to the gods, and not to really a lot of their actions.
So like there's always like usually the sense that like you should always like remember you're always below the gods. And like you can also like literally see that in their myths where Olympus is high above them and they're always lower than them. And they should not forget that, or they're going to they're gonna be punished by the gods. They're going to understand what it means not to be like that.
Yeah. Because again, early humans, we don't know a lot of knowledge when it comes to science, right? So if lightning strikes your house and your house gets burned down, you would attribute it to a god rather than scientific, things happening. And humans would tend to blame themselves because in order to like take some agency over it, right? Because humans, we like to have agency over our lives. So even if bad things happen to us, we always want to twist it in a way where like it's probably something that we fucked up. If our village got flooded, maybe we didn't sacrifice enough virgins, or maybe we didn't give them enough food sacrifices, or whatever. We weren't good, obedient followers. It's always that. So, and this goes back into it. Like the hubris, thinking that you're better than everyone else. The playwrights are trying to say you will eventually get punished. Now, whether that punishment in real life is because of your hubris or not, because imagine you're a really arrogant asshole, and then as luck would have it, let's say your mom gets AIDS, and she dies. You would think, oh, it's because I was so hubristic, without realizing that maybe it had nothing to do with it. But obviously, the ancient Greeks, like I said, they didn't scientifically know what these diseases were, like what natural disasters were, or anything like that. But life in general, like where these terrible things that happen to humans, like where it all comes from. So they would just tend to blame themselves, because if they don't, they might have to come with the realization that things just happen even to good people, and that would scare early human societies. And that's how I think like a lot of these religions were starting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I also thought of like another possible thing, and like maybe like it's gonna be a long tangent or not. But like I mean all I could think of, like, obviously back then there were slaves, like, and maybe like that's also another way of like keeping like that system in place where like we're basically like your gods by that point. Because like if you're a slave, you have nothing, you have no rights, you're property. And if you were to like show any kind of hubris in front of your literal master, it's only rightful that you get punished. So like
Could be that. Putting it in its place, yeah.
so like that's like something I thought of, like maybe same thing with women, but like that's harder, that's more debatable in this case. But like we always see, like, I do think like having like hubris as a very big falling off point, like I'm pretty sure that's probably going to be the case in all of the other stories we're going to read in like the Christian era or something like that.
Yeah.
So like, I do think like that is something to keep in mind as we keep reading them.
We're gonna see like definitely like a build up of like philosophies to come to like the modern Western thought that we have today. So this is like the precursor to all the ancient Greek philosophers. And after this book, we're going to Herodotus and Thucydides. So we're still not reaching Plato and Aristotle yet. And Plato and Aristotle are really seen as like the basis for Western thought. Obviously, they get their influences from some of Thucydides, because Thucydides and Herodotus, even though they cover history, they also talk about a lot of human nature through their telling of history. Like why, pretty much. Which Plato and Aristotle, they borrow from a little bit, and also future authors would borrow from as well. So yeah. Got anything to say, Dylan, in regards to hubris, or regards to like all three of the plays we just read, like if you found a connection or not, or?
In terms of hubris, I mean, I would just attribute that to how Greece was back then. A long time ago, obviously there were a lot of wars, so a lot of these macho warriors, they always want to try and be the best, right? You see Achilles, you see Ajax, as we mentioned, all these people. So I think obviously you want to be the man, and that's how you build up your hubris. Now obviously in these, we've seen sometimes they get knocked down a peg and it comes back to bite them.
Yeah.
Case in point, Ajax. I believe that was Sophocles. Ajax.
Sophocles.
Read?
That was the
Yeah,
first
and
one.
that was obviously a case of hubris, the negatives of hubris, right? If something bad happens, then it's like, uh-oh, this is not good, it's all my fault, I'm gonna kill myself. That's obviously extreme, but yeah, but it does show how powerful the hubris is. And obviously back then, as we said, like when there's a lot more power involved, it has more impact in their society.
All right. Three more. Next, what are the next three?
The next three is Hercules Mad, Phoenician Maidens, and Orestes.
Oh, that's gonna be good.
Orestes.
Hercules Mad.
What was the third one?
Orestes.
Orestes is
And then
good.
the second one is the
And
Phoenicians.
I'm pretty sure that's not the trial, since Hermione is there.
No, it's something else entirely.
But Apollo's there.
And how far we are from the end of Euripides?
I think it's this and one other.
Yep.
In 2 weeks we're
There's 6 more stories, so yeah, 2 more.
And Aristotle, and then comedies.
Yep.
That's technically satires, but yes.